Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, welcome. I'm Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid. Today's video is going to be a video response to April of Tarot and Witchery, and it is a response to hashtag deck FOMO. Now, truth be told, I initially found out about this tag through another channel first, and this channel is a brand new channel started by one of my viewers and much loved subscribers, Laura Mayfair. And I've gotten to know Laura a little bit, and she is a wonderful, gentle soul with lots of great insights on tarot, and she's been reading tarot for a little bit, and I've learned a lot from conversations that I've had with her. So I'm going to link her video as well as April's video down below in the description box below, and I hope you will watch those. So April initially came out with 7 questions regarding deck FOMO, and I'm going to add an 8th at the end, so stay tuned for that in case any of you on TarotTube want to pick up this tag. And just a little reminder before we get started, if you like this sort of content and would like to see me do more of it, please consider hitting a like, a subscribe, comment in the description box below. All of those things help this very small channel to grow. Okay, the first question is, what triggers deck FOMO? For me, the number one culprit for creating deck FOMO is TarotTube. Yes, I think we all have that in common. It's so easy to put YouTube on and you see on your feed your favorite tarot tubers have the brand new decks. The brand new decks you were curious about, maybe that you saw that were in pre-order status on Amazon, or that were Kickstarter decks, or that are upcoming Kickstarter decks. Some of these new decks have been sent to some of the channels for review, so you can get a sneak peek. It's all over TarotTube, the brand new, beautiful, shiny decks. I would have to say, yes, that's my number one culprit. I don't very often, and I've been trying to make this a habit recently, that I don't go on to Kickstarter very much anymore. And I only find out about Kickstarter campaigns if I see a tarot tuber talking about it. I don't really check Amazon anymore for new pre-orders. I'm trying to get away from pre-ordering decks on Amazon because I don't feel the need anymore to try to be the first one who gets the deck and show it on my channel. I'm just trying to move away from that. Going forward, you're going to see a lot fewer deck unboxing videos on my channel than I've done in the past. I am trying to be a little bit more mindful what I bring into my home because I already have a very nice, sizable collection. That being said, TarotTube is a wonderful resource for those of us who want to be mindful before we bring something in. TarotTube can help us inform our decisions as to whether or not we really need to bring that deck into our homes. Question number 2, what FOMO deck purchase do you regret? There have been a few, but there's one that's so glaringly obvious to me, and I wish I hadn't been so hasty in clicking that button. It's a deck that I purchased a long time ago, and because it's a Kickstarter campaign, I don't even have it in my hands yet. The Literary Tarot. Now, this deck, I can't remember when I backed it. Okay, let's see. Oh, it doesn't really say here, but I went back and forth on this deck. It was a Kickstarter campaign that funded successfully, and I feel like I've been waiting forever for this deck. And during the campaign, I went back and forth, and the reason why is because the premise is super, super cool. It's a deck based on literature and literary figures. The art is going to be literary figures. Like, I think this is supposed to be Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. But truth be told, the art I'm not really attracted to for some reason. It's not giving me the tingles. And let's see, you can pre-order the deck now. So I'm going to hit this button. And yes, so the Literary Tarot, a tarot deck unlocking the secrets of classic literature. Join us as we delve into the libraries of history, unearthing secrets of the cosmos through the wisdom of our favorite classic stories. Now, I totally dig that. The premise, I'm totally on board with. But this is one of those, compilation decks from different artists. The artwork is all done from different artists. And sometimes those are hit and miss with me. There's been a couple that I have that I've really, really vibed with, and others that have, fallen flat. I'm looking at the art, and it's just not sparking that joy. It's not sparking that, oh my gosh, I'm chomping at the bit for this deck. And it has, it's been a long time. And a lot of the times, you get a little annoyed, a little impatient when a deck that you're really excited about is, been, is pushed back a little bit. They're having trouble with production, which is common these days. But I don't really care. I haven't been chomping at the bit for this deck. I purchased the deck and the big guidebook. And I see now that they have a Major Arcana booster pack here. Let's see, I guess so you can get some extra choices. So I don't know if I'm going to get that. If I were totally on board with the deck, I would. But I'm not sure. I'm thinking like right now, what I'm thinking right now is I think I'm going to be selling this deck as soon as I get it. It's just, but I may be a bit hasty in saying that. Well, it does say the tarot items will ship summer of 2022. Okay. I'm just kind of regretting purchasing this. I spent $80, $50 for the tarot deck, $30 for the guidebook. I didn't get the tarot cloth or, anything extra. I can't remember what spiffs, if any, are coming with the whole Kickstarter campaign, any upgrades. But yeah, this one I regretted almost as soon as I hit buy. From what I've seen of the images, I'm just not that excited about it. And not to say that it isn't a beautiful deck. It is gorgeous. But, I guess I'll have to wait and see when I get it in my hands and try to read with it. I will do an unboxing of it and let you all know while I have it in my hands if anything has changed for this deck. I mean, the images are really, really beautiful, but for some reason I'm just I don't know. It's falling a little flat for me. But the proof is in the pudding, as I always say. I'm just not excited about it now. And I've never really had that happen before, where I've purchased a deck, especially on Kickstarter, and I'm not excited to get it. So that is a FOMO purchase, a deck that I regret. I should have waited, but sometimes you don't know if there is going to be a pre-order, after the campaign funds, if there's going to be any decks available. So yeah, definite FOMO. Oh, and okay, estimated shipping August of 2022. So I know it's been over a year. Has it been over a year since I purchased this? I can't remember. But I'm definitely not really excited. I'm curious. I will say I'm curious to get it because I want to see if there's going to be some excitement ignited once I have the deck in my hands, once I flip through it.
I'm very curious. I'm not excited, I'm curious.
Question number 3. How do you set limits for your deck collecting? I have the same limits as most people have. I have a budget that not only includes my tarot decks, but I have a budget that encompasses my tarot decks, supplies for my hobbies, clothing. I just kind of have that all in, you know, one budget, and I know how much I can spend. So if I spend a little more on decks one month, I know that I'm not going to be able to bring any fabric or patterns in, or much less for my sewing hobby, or new coloring books or pencils for my coloring hobby. And then sometimes I purchase more art supplies, and you know, the deck purchases are fewer. Space is also a consideration, and I have a relegated space on my bookshelf. I do have my decks spread out all over my house. I have some in my bedroom and more in my living room. When those spaces are filled, I know it's time to let some decks go before I let anything else in. But actually, I haven't filled up all my regulated space for tarot decks. I haven't gotten to that point before I've let some go. It makes me anxious if I have anything piled on top of one another. So I have my decks on my bookcase in their boxes. I tend to keep my tarot decks in their boxes where I can see them, not lying down flat, except for a few that do have those flat boxes. But the ones that can stand up in a bookcase, you know, with their spines out, I have those neatly placed in my bookcase and in my little moving carts with wheels. I have them all neatly spaced so I can see them and I know exactly what I have. Another thing that causes me to pause before hitting the buy button is evaluating if I have another deck that's similar to the one I'm thinking about purchasing. And like collage decks, for instance, I love vintage art collage decks. So before I bring another one into my home, I have to think about, do I have something that's just like it? Reach for this new deck more or less than something that I already have. So I kind of think about those things before hitting buy. Question number 4. How many decks do I have in my collection? Okay, I'm filming this after I've done the bulk of my deck decluttering. There are still some decks that I'm considering rehoming, but as of now, and they're reached a point where I stopped counting, but I think I rehomed about 85 decks, maybe 90 by the time some others go that I'm considering letting go. And I'm also not counting decks that I have doubles of, whether it's because I have a first and second edition of my favorite decks, or if I have a backup copy. So I'm not counting the backup copies or a subsequent edition. So the number is, this includes Tarot, Oracle, and Lenormand. The total is 284. That number may seem exorbitant to some of you, and to some of you, you're just like, oh, that's nothing. That's chump change. Question number 5. How many decks do you need? Really, in reality, I only need 3. 1 tarot, 1 oracle, and 1 Lenormand deck. Depending on what decks you like to read with, maybe some of you just like to read with a tarot deck, maybe some of you like to combine your oracle and tarot, maybe some of you read with Lenormand. It's going to depend, but for me, to get down to basics, it's just those 3 decks. If I'm going to get really fancy, I would probably add a 4th deck. So I'd have a regular tarot deck for everyday kind of readings, and then I would have an extra tarot deck for shadow work. But again, you know, a shadow work deck is not necessary. You can just use one tarot deck for all of your tarot readings. Do I enjoy reading with a wide array of decks? Yes, it's a lot of fun. A lot of decks have their own personalities, and the dialogues that you have with different decks can be really unique. But the only decks I really need are 3 decks. Question number 6 is, what is a positive deck purchase from FOMO? I would have to say that most of my deck purchases have been positive deck FOMO purchases, but there's one that sticks in my brain the most. It's the freshest, and that is
Moon Baby Tarot by YouTube's Moon Baby, Brant. And I saw this deck. I saw a lot of unboxings before I bought it. And I purchased the first edition off of Etsy. I did not back the Kickstarter. I saw a lot of unboxings and made my decision. I was hesitant because I'm not a huge, I'm not, well, up until this point, not a huge RWS Pixies art aficionado. Up until this point, I didn't feel the need to have all the many iterations of RWS decks. Now, I had a couple. I had the Centennial and the Universal Weight for study purposes, but generally I'm attracted to other art. That being said, I was really attracted to the 70s aesthetic. I saw, I was kind of attracted to the Trippin' Weight and the Groovy Weight decks. Those were, I believe, a lot more expensive than this deck. And there was just something about this muted pastel color palette that I really, really loved. And so I took a chance on it, ordered it on Etsy from the first printing, and I have number 812 out of 1,000 copies. Now, there has been a second edition that was recently, I believe, funded on Kickstarter. And I don't know, I didn't bite. I wanted to see. I'm going to watch unboxings, and if it's available on Etsy, I will reevaluate to see if I need it. I don't think too much of the art is going to change. I think it's going to come with maybe different backs, different coloration, different edging. This is a light pastel lilac pink. You can barely see it on my phone. It's along the same lines as the pink here in the card, but even lighter. I love reading with this deck. This has totally made me excited about working with RWS Pixies Art deck. And I reach for this one and my antique RWS deck, the one by Los Scarabeo. Those are my 2 favorite RWS decks. I actually get excited about working with them. The colorations, this has got a groovy 70s vibe. The antique Los Scarabeo deck has, a vintage tea-stained, kind of Victorian vibe to it. They're both just beautiful, but this was actually a very happy FOMO purchase, and I'm very, very happy that I did buy it.
Question number 7. What are my thoughts on the current state of deck FOMO in the tarot community? I've done a whole video on this last summer, so it's almost been a year, and I'll link it in the cards or in the description box below so you can watch that, because I haven't been reading tarot very long, but in the time that I have been reading tarot, this conversation has come up a lot. I think it's come up again because it's spring. A lot of us are in spring cleaning mode. We're reevaluating the deck purchases we made in the last 2 years due to lockdowns and the uncertainty and the things that were going on in the world. A lot of us made purchases due to anxiety in those times. So I think as a collective community. We're all reevaluating what we've brought into our homes and actually what we really need. Even in the short amount of time when I started purchasing decks and started my tarot journey, I've noticed that the new decks coming out are picking up speed. I can't imagine, for those of you who started reading tarot, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what it must be like for you. Way back then you only had very few options, and now it's crazy, and it's a wonderful thing, but it's also, there's a saying of too much, there can be too much of a good thing. On one side, on the negatives, it can lead to analysis paralysis. We can spend too much time thinking about decks and, trying to make decisions about what decks we want to buy. Just wasted energy. And blow our budgets and maybe spend a little bit too much on decks, maybe that we really don't need. I mean, who needs 284 decks? I'm not a professional reader. And I think it can lead to people who are feeling vulnerable for whatever is going on in your life to maybe want to make that deck purchase, maybe to reward yourself for coming through something that's been hard, or maybe to hit that buy button because you need something to help you get through something that's a distraction, a new deck. Some people buy new clothes for those reasons. For those of us in the tarot community, it can be decks. So as long as we're personally aware of those triggers, we're all responsible for our own habits, our own mental health. There shouldn't be any judgment because somebody's practice is different than another person's practice, or somebody has a bigger budget than somebody else. Everybody's different. Everybody's needs are different. Whatever you do, as long as it's done responsibly, it's all good. But as far as having choices, that's a good thing, because now you can find the exact deck pretty much that you're looking for. There are more and more decks that are more diverse as far as body positivity and race and gender. Though I will say, and I'm going to keep harping on this, I have not found the definitive deck that reflects the different phases of life. Predominantly aging. Most of the depictions we see in the cards are of youth, even in the court cards, which are supposed to depict some maturity, they very seldom do. So I'm going to keep harping on that. But on the whole, we have lots of wonderful choices to find decks that we can have meaningful dialogues with, and that's a good thing. Also, I think it's wonderful that such talented artists have this creative outlet, that have this avenue to let their art and their talent be seen. And we can help support these artists by purchasing a deck. All right, so those were April's 7 questions, and I'm going to add an 8th, just in case any of you out there want to pick up this tag. And that is, what deck did you miss out on that you wish you had? For me, it's definitely 2 decks.
So I don't know if this can be considered as FOMO, since it was in and out of production long before I got into tarot and realized that it existed. But it is the Tarot of Delphi by J.D. Hildegard Hinkle. This deck consists of pre-Raphaelite art, which is something I really, really love. And I'm so sorry that, I'm not able to get it. I don't even think there's any copies available on eBay. I check every so often, but of course they are very, very expensive. And I am sorry that I missed out on this deck. But I do have a couple of decks that do scratch the itch. The Enchanted Romance Tarot by Cherry Enchantress and the Beautiful Rebellion Tarot by Robin L. Cole. Now this is the second edition of the Beautiful Rebellion Tarot. I believe this is still available on Make Playing Cards, which is where I got it. But these two decks have pre-Raphaelite art. So I purchased the Enchanted Romance Tarot because, of course, I missed out on the Tarot of Delphi. And then I realized that this was coming back into production, that the creator was making it available on Make Playing Cards. So I also got the Beautiful Rebellion Tarot, and this is the one that I use. I love the Enchanted Romance Tarot, but I like the fact that the Beautiful Rebellion is borderless. And there are some cards that I find work better, especially in some of the minors, than in the Enchanted Romance, but they're both very, very wonderful decks. And they scratch the itch since I was not able to get, nor will I probably be able to get, a copy of the Tarot of Delphi. So you kind of see that even though, yeah, I won't have the original that I wanted, there will always be something that'll kind of scratch the itch. There's gonna always be another deck that comes along. Yeah, I would like to get my hands on a copy of the Tarot of Delphi, but these are perfectly wonderful decks, and I love using them. And one other FOMO deck I wish I had gotten was an earlier edition of the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black. I do have, as you can see, the new publication, or newish publication, of this deck by US Games, and it is perfectly adequate. It's pretty much kept the same aesthetic as the earlier editions, except the cardstock is, I believe, quite a bit different. And this is glossy cardstock. I would have preferred a more matte cardstock, and there's been some tweaks, I think, to the borders and whatnot. I think the backs of the earlier editions were different, but I'm very, very happy that I have the images. I would have liked to have an earlier copy, but when I see them, they are a lot of money. And I have to go back and forth, you know, because I do have this edition. I have the images depicted. Do I need to spend a lot of money on an earlier edition? I've been going back and forth, and I don't see earlier editions on eBay that much anymore. And when the earlier edition was available, it was well before I started my tarot journey. So I think I'm happy with this right now. Though if an earlier edition fell into my hands, I would totally be down with it.
But I just want to say, even though I missed out on those decks, there have been other decks that were at one time an indie deck that were published a while ago that I wasn't aware of, the Kickstarter or the pre-order, that have come out mass market. And one of those decks is a current acquisition of mine that I just love. And it is When My Soul Whispered Oracle deck. I was completely unaware of this Kickstarter campaign and when it came out, and it wasn't until well after it was unavailable that I saw it on Lisa Papez's channel. And I was really, really bummed because I knew it was something that I would love and enjoy. But US Games has come out with a beautiful, inexpensive edition. So I don't know how much the Kickstarter deck costs, but I can guarantee you that this edition is, you know, a lot more economical. All right, that's the end of my video response to hashtag deck FOMO. Started by April of Tarot and Witchery. I will link her video and Laura Mayfair's video down in the description box below, or link it up here somewhere so you can see those videos. And if you would like to see me do some more video responses, let me know in the comment box below. And also also hit that like and subscribe. All right, with that, I will let you get on with your beautiful day. Bye for now.